Jason Bennett, 12 years old, is a smart, sensitive boy and carries deep trauma since his mother, Caroline, died in a car accident 2 years ago. The family that was once a safe and loving place suddenly fell apart, leaving him alone to face the pain while his father, David, tried to find balance in his life. Jason loved his father, but the gap between father and son grew as David buried himself in work and loneliness. David Bennett is a successful man who runs a small but stable construction company. Since Caroline's death, he became a single father, always feeling like he couldn't meet all his son's emotional needs. Although he loves Jason very much, David is often caught up in the pressure of work and the feeling of emptiness from loss. For him, Veronica's appearance was a ray of light amid the gloomy days. Veronica Scott is a woman in her 30s, with gentle beauty and confident demeanor. David met her at a party organized by a mutual friend. Veronica immediately impressed with her sophistication, intelligence, and thoughtfulness. Not only did she talk interestingly, she also showed deep sympathy for David's difficulties in raising a child. Initially, Jason was quite curious about Veronica. He even hoped that her presence could bring joy to his father. Not only does Veronica win David's trust, but she also tries to build a relationship with Jason. She often brings small gifts, asks about school, and even plays his favorite games with Jason. Even so, Jason still felt like something was wrong. While David seems to love Veronica more and more, he begins to notice strange behavior from her. There are times when Veronica is overly friendly, seemingly trying to win over Jason by forcefully following his wishes. But when it was just the two of them together, her attitude changed dramatically. The cold eyes and somewhat fake smile made Jason feel uneasy. He didn't know if he was imagining things too much or not, but the doubt in his heart grew more and more. The relationship between Jason and David used to be very close, but since Caroline's death, the two don't seem to know how to talk to each other anymore. Jason always craved his father's attention, but David was lost in his responsibilities and loneliness. The fact that David is getting closer to Veronica makes Jason both happy for his father and feel abandoned. One time, Jason tried telling his father about his uncomfortable feelings towards Veronica, but David just laughed, saying that he was probably thinking too much. You know, Veronica really cares about you and wants to be a part of our family. She won't replace your mother, but she can help me take care of you, David said in a gentle voice, but resolute. This statement made Jason silent. He didn't want to disappoint his father, but the feeling of insecurity in his heart still did not go away. One weekend evening, David called Jason down to the living room. Veronica was there, with a bright smile on her face. David, in a simple but elegant outfit, stood next to her with happy eyes. "Jason, I have news to share with you," David began, his voice mixed with nervousness and excitement. "Father and Veronica have decided to get married." The room became quiet. Jason looked at his father, then at Veronica. His heart seemed to stop beating for a moment. "I don't know what to say," he stammered. David knelt down and put his hand on Jason's shoulder. "I know this is a big change for you, but I believe this will be the best thing for both of us. Veronica loves you and wants to be your stepmother. We will be a happy family, Jason." Jason nodded reluctantly, but deep inside, he knew something wasn't right. The feeling of anxiety and insecurity grows stronger, like a storm waiting to explode. He didn't know why, but he understood that he had to find out the truth about Veronica before it was too late. Since David announced his marriage to Veronica, Jason has constantly noticed her strange behavior. One evening, while Jason was upstairs doing his homework, he heard soft footsteps downstairs. He sneaked down and found Veronica rummaging through his father's filing cabinet. She was startled when she saw Jason appear, quickly closed the drawer, and smiled wryly. "Oh, I was just looking for the bills," she explained, but Jason didn't believe her. Mysterious calls also began to appear. Veronica frequently leaves the room with her phone in hand, talking in whispers while looking around warily. One time, Jason overheard a short paragraph. "I'm almost done. Just need a little more time. Don't call me unnecessarily." He felt cold down his spine. Jason decided to take action. With his intelligence and technological skills, he began searching for information about Veronica online. He discovered that her social network account had very little information, seemingly intentionally hidden. But after hours of searching, he found an old post from a woman claiming to be Veronica's victim, accusing her of defrauding tens of thousands of dollars by pretending to be someone else. Jason continues to investigate. He secretly checked Veronica's phone when she left it on the table. In there, he found a string of messages with suspicious content. The plan is still progressing. Don't let him get suspicious. Jason realized that he here was most likely his father. Ultimately, Jason decided to follow Veronica. One afternoon, when she left the house, Jason secretly followed her. He saw Veronica meeting a strange man in an empty cafe. The two talked with tension. Jason quickly used his phone to take pictures and record a conversation. "Everything's fine," Veronica said. "He trusts me completely. This wedding will ensure we have full control of his assets." Jason felt like the ground beneath his feet collapsed. He couldn't believe that the woman his father loved was plotting to usurp their family's property. But what scared him the most was that Veronica's suspicions didn't stop there. In the past, she was suspected of being involved in a mysterious disappearance. Jason knew he couldn't wait any longer. If he did nothing, his father would fall into a dangerous trap. With the evidence in hand, Jason understood that it was time for him to face the truth and find a way to save his father before it was too late. Jason couldn't keep his findings to himself any longer. One evening after dinner, he decided to sit down and talk to David. "Dad, I need to talk to you about Veronica," Jason began, his voice mixed with nervousness and determination. David looked up and put down his coffee cup. "What's the matter, son?" "I think she's not who you think she is. I've found some very suspicious things about her," Jason said quickly, trying to stay calm. He recounted what he discovered, from Veronica rummaging through documents, mysterious calls, to online denunciation posts, and the meeting with the strange man. David frowned, his eyes flashing with discomfort. "Jason, you're going too far. Veronica didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you're just feeling uncomfortable with this change. That's normal, but you have to learn to accept it." "No, Father! This isn't just my feeling. This is the truth. I have proof," Jason shouted, tears starting to well up in anger and helplessness. David shook his head and sighed. "Jason, I know you miss your mother, and I understand how difficult it is for you, but I also have the right to be happy. Veronica doesn't replace your mother. She just wants to help me, and you build a family. New family." "She doesn't want family. She wants Dad's money," Jason shouted loudly, holding his phone and opening up the pictures and messages he had collected. But David only glanced at it and pushed it away. "Jason, stop! You can't keep behaving like this." Jason felt like he was running into a wall. David was blinded by love. Despite his best efforts, David still refused to listen. "I'm not doing this out of jealousy or selfishness," Jason said, his voice choked up. "I do this because I love you, Dad." David did not respond. He stood up, turned around, and left the room, leaving Jason sitting there with a broken heart. All that night, Jason couldn't sleep. A feeling of helplessness enveloped him, but deep down, a fire of determination still burned. If his father refused to listen, he would have to do something himself. The closer the wedding day gets, the more Jason realizes he has no time left. He spent many hours planning, considering every step. Jason understands that he will face danger, but he cannot let Veronica destroy his father's life. On the morning of the wedding, Jason decided today would be the day he revealed the truth. No one, not even his father, can stop him anymore. The big day has arrived. The small church is splendidly decorated with white silk ribbons, fresh flowers, and shimmering lights. Veronica, in an exquisite wedding dress, walked amid the applause of the guests. David stood at the head of the ceremony, his eyes full of pride and happiness. Jason sat in the back row, his hands clasped together, his heart racing. As the priest began the ritual, Jason felt like time slowed down. He heard every word, every voice echoing in his head. When David was about to say yes, Jason stood up. His voice echoed throughout the room. "Stop! You can't marry her!" The whole room became silent. All eyes turned to Jason. David was stunned, and Veronica turned pale. "Jason, what are you doing?" David asked, his voice mixed with surprise and anger. "I'm sorry, but I can't let this happen. Veronica is not who she says she is. I have proof," Jason said, his hands shaking as he took out his phone. He opened the photos, messages, and recordings he had collected and projected them onto the big screen in the church. Guests began to whisper. Some people looked at Veronica with suspicion, others looked at David with sympathy. Veronica tried to stay calm, but her voice cracked as she said, "Jason, you're misunderstanding. This is just a coincidence." "No, I followed you. I know who you met, what you said, and what you were planning with Dad," Jason shouted. He showed the recording he had collected. Veronica's voice rang out clearly. "This wedding will ensure we have full control of his assets, of his." David felt like he was struck by lightning. He turned to look at Veronica, his eyes filled with hurt and anger. "Veronica, is this true?" Veronica stammered, trying to justify. "David, you have to believe me. This is a misunderstanding. Jason edited everything to sabotage us." But when she saw she couldn't lie anymore, Veronica turned and ran out. Jason promptly shouted, "Don't let her escape." David took the phone and called 911, his voice shaking but determined. "I need the police immediately. I think I've been scammed, and the woman I'm marrying is trying to run away." When the police arrived at the church, a stuffy atmosphere filled the room. Veronica, trying to escape through the back door, was arrested on the spot. Testimonies from Jason and the evidence he collected were quickly included in the investigation. Police confirmed that Veronica is not only a professional scammer, but is also involved in a series of scams and even a mysterious disappearance a few years ago. David, completely devastated, sat in a church pew. He held his head, his eyes filled with pain and disappointment. "How could you be so blind?" he muttered. Jason sat next to him, saying nothing, just placing his hand on his father's shoulder as a word of comfort. Although he felt relieved that the truth was revealed, he still felt a heavy heart when he saw his father suffering like that. In the days that followed, David tried to come to terms with reality. He spent a lot of time working with the police, providing information, and cooperating in the investigation of Veronica. Her dark past is gradually exposed. Veronica has been married twice, and both of her previous husbands became victims of property fraud. The evidence Jason provided helped the police link her to previously unsolved cases, making it impossible for Veronica to get away with the crime. As time passed, David gradually realized the importance of Jason in saving him from a big mistake. One evening, in the quiet of the living room, David decided to talk to his son. He looked at Jason, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Jason, I owe you an apology. I didn't listen to you, and I let my emotions blind me. Without you, I don't know where things would have gone." Jason smiled slightly. "I just want to protect you, Dad. I can't let someone take advantage of you, especially after what we've been through." David nodded, feeling his heart lighten. He promised Jason that from now on, he would always listen to his son, not only as a father, but also as a companion. The two began to spend more time together, from cooking together, going for walks, to sharing stories and emotions that they had previously hidden. One day, David suggested, "Jason, I think we should go visit your mother. It's been a while since I visited her grave." Jason agreed immediately. They prepared a bouquet of white roses, Caroline's favorite flower, and drove to the cemetery together. As they stood in front of Caroline's grave, they were both silent, letting the memories flood back. David put the bouquet down, his voice choked up. "Caroline, I made a mistake, but I'm lucky because our son kept me on track. I promise to take good care of Jason, like you ever wanted." Jason stood next to him, feeling a warmth spreading in his heart. Even though he lost his mother, he knows that the relationship between him and his father is stronger than ever. In the months that followed, David decided to spend more time with his family and himself. He enrolled in a personal development course and even started participating in charity activities. Jason, inspired by his father, also began participating in school projects and community activities. One morning, while the two were having breakfast, David said, "Jason, I think we should go on a trip. Maybe somewhere we've never been before." Jason was excited. "Good idea, Dad. I've always wanted to visit the Grand Canyon." David smiled. "Then, the Grand Canyon will be our first destination. We will begin a new journey, not only to explore the world, but also to explore ourselves." The story ends with the image of David and Jason in the car, laughter resounding in the vast space. They are not only father and son, but also companions, overcoming challenges together and building a brighter future.